Hello, I'm Corey Black, and I am a student at USF College of Business, Muma College of Business, and right now I'm taking Professor Harpy's Database Administration class, and this assignment is for the Citizen Data Certificate, Citizen Data Science Certificate. And the first, and this data set that I'll be going over today is from the United Nations country data, assorted country data, and it is not associated with this class, but for the purposes of this assignment, that is not an issue. So, what I would like to show you today are many things concerning the countries of the planet. This first sheet that I have generated for everyone is the countries of the world and their GDPs overlaid. So you can see the United States, clearly the highest GDP, China, second highest GDP, and then Europe, high GDP, and then just assorted all over the place. And this is good, but it needs some more data to go over with it. So if I can go over to number two, now I have the country's CO2 emissions and their GDP CO2 emissions. So if you look at the CO2 emissions, you can see the United States and China are still by far the most ahead. And if you go back to the GDP, those are both the countries with the highest GDP. So it looks like CO2 emissions are correlated with GDP levels. So now let me go to sheet 3. And sheet 3 is life expectancy. And you can also see life expectancy is directly correlated with GDP levels. If you hover over it, and then I go back to sheet 1 to see again. This is male life expectancy, by the way. If I go to sheet 4, this is birth rate. You can see the actually countries with the lowest GDPs here in Africa. You can see some of these not even cracking a trillion. And you can see they have the highest birth rate, which tells us that the more money a country has, the less likely their women are to give birth. Now if we go to 5, this is GDP per region. You can see the Americas have the highest GDP. Africa has one of the lowest GDPs besides Oceania, but that should be adjusted for population, considering Africa's population is much higher than Oceania. And if I go back to birth rate, you can see that the region Africa has one of the highest birth rates, whereas their GDP is one of the lowest compared to everyone else. And then if you have internet usage per region and GDP per region, you can see that as the internet comes into a place, the GDP is likely to be very high. This is the U.S. makes this an outlier, which is why these don't directly correlate. But all of the other ones are very correlated with internet usage and GDP. This is health expenditures as a percent of per capita as a percent of GDP. And this, I just had this one because I think it's outrageous that the United States has almost twice as much of health expenditure as any other country on the planet. You see some of the poorest countries have lower health expenditures, and that's also reflected in the population and life expectancy. If you go back to life expectancy, no, it's birth rate. Yeah, you can see that the countries with the lowest health expenditures have the worst life expectancy. Right. And this is mobile phone usage and GDP. This slightly correlates, but it's not correlated very well. Alright, well thank you. My name is Corey Black, and this has been my submission for the Citizen Data Science Certificate. Thanks for watching.